Yo, what are my thoughts on mental health? Well, I can give you my experience with mental health, and we can see how that translates into things that are less personal. If eventually I can reach some point where, like, going fast enough is like going slow because you're going nowhere. Let's think about this realistically. To go fast enough, you have to be in the right place, like a track. And realistically, if you're on this track, you're going nowhere. You're just burning remaining funds that you already have. You're not necessarily forging ahead. But, you know, eventually you can go slow and go somewhere. Maybe just as much as you can go fast and go somewhere. If you keep those things in mind, where polar opposites are sort of the same with one difference to them, and to the extent of, yeah, if realistically you are a driver for, let's say, NASCAR or Formula One, then yeah, you are going somewhere while going fast. And let's say if you're in construction, then you're going very slow, then you still go somewhere too. We can apply all these forms of thinking to come up with conclusions that allow us to compare opposites in our reality, maybe things that are out of our reach to things that are near ourselves, within our understanding, things that are out of our understanding, to come to a better conclusion, to help focus in. And maybe by the end of the video, things will speak for themselves in a feeling. Maybe that feeling is like being tired. Maybe it's like being able to go out and do something, right? And we can compare those two things to what I just said initially. But in a world where you think about conspiratorial aliens, the idea of toxins being released, the idea of population control, not only that, how much do we pay caregivers? Do we pay teachers? What about welfare? What about taxes? Realistic things as well, not necessarily just the hyper fantastical. How does somebody deal with navigating all of those waters and come to some firm standalone place in their existence? Well, I can tell you for myself, it hasn't been easy. For myself, it's been very hard to try and navigate all those waters, especially being raised in a very religious society, one where religion is very easily comparable to the community itself. There's not necessarily a distinguishable difference, right? And performing well in one allows you to perform well in the other. But when you have questions about religion and faith, it obviously affects your performance in the social environment in which you grow up in, which causes you to stunt your growth and affects you in much more a wide range of things than just in having what people classify you as your religion. Let's say that out of all the books in the entire world, why is it just one book or a couple books that are seen as from God? Isn't everything from God? Well, then why would there be anything that is suffering, anything that is harmful in this entire world if God exists? If everything is connected, why doesn't everything know? If we go fast, are we going slow? And so the way I deal with all of that, trying to understand all these things, why can't I make enough money? Why can't I, make the friends that I want? Why can't I have the relationships that I want? I just say something to the extent of, and it seems like there's a big stereotype in this world of mental health of people who try to drag in higher knowledge or higher power into the arguments, because all of a sudden it's like the guy says he's Jesus or the guy is hearing messages from God. You know what I mean? I think it's very easy to associate me with things like that if you don't listen closely and try to understand that I'm using reason with my approach, right? And saying something like, "Oh yeah, going fast is like going slow." If we listen to the first of this video again, or something like to the extent of everything in life is personal, right? Because the more true something is, the more it's just a feeling, but the more it's a feeling, the more that it's personal. But the more that it's personal, the more you can do because you understand that it's only you restricting what can actually happen. Because that's like the insanity of life. But life itself knows this, so you know how to combat it. You can't necessarily argue against that because you already know how to create creativity in this reality. There's how insanity regulates itself to be sane. But right there, I have been basically tormented and tortured by caregivers by trying to bring everybody down to the same level by saying that if this is actually true, nobody is above or below anybody. Listen, I grew up wanting to do amazing things in this world, be an astronaut, be whatever, be the world's greatest fighter, be the world's greatest father, everything in between. But eventually reality sets in. Can I make money? Are my viewpoints accepted? Am I am I a well-spoken individual? Do I have talents? Listen, there's only so much you can do in regards to all the chaos of the world and all of the different positions and all the different kinds of people that there are. But you can't really defeat my argument because I just told you that my argument has a solution within it because it already knows itself. So it knows exactly how to react to the idea of it already knowing everything, which gives it the ideal perspective of life. But anyways, me coming into this whole scenario of trying to be a person that doesn't obviously want to have nothing in this world, but obviously is somebody who is just as obviously as much of an observant person as all these other people are. I don't necessarily have all the talents to produce the best products that everybody else does. The things that I do don't necessarily translate to value in other people's lives. And it makes it frustrating. So I act out a little bit. And then all of a sudden I try to use this form of reasoning on the spot and people don't know how to deal with it. And they just say, oh, he's another one of them. And then all of a sudden you get put on a bunch of antipsychotics and a bunch of medicine, and then you have to go to court and defend yourself. And you try to use reasoning and you try to explain yourself. And you say, I'm trying to do YouTube. And the more I get caught up in it, the more I try to create views. The more that I try to create views, you see things where people are making money off of running around and books on their feet down the street. And people are making tens of thousands of dollars, and me trying to work my hardest at Amazon makes nothing. So I'm trying to create videos, I'm trying to go viral, I'm trying to create something that works for myself, but works obviously for other people and entertains them. And not only that, gives me a sense of actually completing something in this world. But it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier, and people that are around you don't necessarily see the things that are extremely personal to you. They just know the average you and what you've been growing up, and not necessarily the fact that you're trying to give up a lot of things to become the thing that you want to be so that you can sort of maybe move on from them. Like the idea of growing into the next part of life is actually the portion that is your death. Being in places where people are abused so much and having to go and have access to certain facilities is like as much as, do you smoke? Well, if you don't smoke, then you can't necessarily go outside because I'm a prisoner there. And seeing people change and basically die overnight because they get abused by the system and say, I won't fight. That's my experience. But this is what I actually believe. And I'm able to come to you today and still say that after having so many things shot up in me. I can't even tell you exactly what I've been on. More so than the greatest bodybuilders that you'll ever see on the internet. I have no idea what they've shot up into my body. Some of them have the most complicated names known to man. Hard to pronounce even by the greatest physicians that ever were. Twist their tongue into so many knots trying to figure out exactly what's wrong. Is somebody born without being able to work in this society where work itself is the primary function of all man, and if you don't necessarily have the luck that gets you out of the can, then that's just life? Or does somebody act out because this world is messed up? But in doing so, you have to prove it to everybody, which drives your actions into the insanity. Trying to prove to everybody that it's a cloudy day when it's sunny outside makes everybody hate you. And in essence, they treat you just the same, like a crazy person. Where and what is the right thing, guys? So this has been my challenge. This has been my struggle. And like I said, hopefully this can speak for itself. Look at all these videos. We can filter out the search. Sort by view count. 346 million views. Mental health. It's a short. Interesting. We'll see how many likes I get.